Thank you very much. It's lovely to be here. It's lovely to see so many people. We've got an hour, which is going to go really, really fast. Oh, look, it works perfectly as well. I'll introduce myself. I've met a few of you. But what I would say, let's make this interactive. If you have any questions, if you think, what is he talking about? I don't get it. Just pop your hand up and let's see if I can help resolve your question, or at least answer it. This is me, Richard Hamlin. I retired took early retirement from Surrey and Sussex Police a couple of years ago. I worked in various kind of leadership roles, leading teams in kind of community and investigative work. I was a DI running sort of serious crime investigations, and my last role was head of crime training. And I decided to retire early and set my own sort of leadership and development training consultancy up. So here I am today. It's a pleasure to be here. So another little icebreaker. I want to find out what you think leadership entails. So could you get your phones out? Don't worry, you don't need to sign up to any app. You don't need to link in with me, although you're very welcome to. Slido. So all you need to do, open Google, and type in Slido, and hopefully you'll have an opportunity to join. And if you can pop in this code, there'll be a live Slido running. And what I want you to do, once you've done it, are you there? Are you in Slido? Is Wi-Fi working fast enough? It will, if you can get the QR code too. There's no Wi-Fi code. It's just I think it's Adur and Worthing sort of council. No need to put a Wi-Fi password in. Once you're in Slido, it'll ask you to join, and this is for the next couple of questions. Pop in 1155-307. Look at that. We're already ahead of the game. So, what do you think is the most important attribute of a good leader? Hit me with it. So setting and communicating a clear vision. Look at this, it's fantastic. Consistency, good listening, inspiration, flexibility. Thank you for putting the code in. That's really good too. Team making, I like that. Inspiration, empowering, having a vision. Empathy, really, really good. All of these things are the components of good leadership. There is no one set thing. Somebody says, oh, assertiveness. It could be. At times you do need to be assertive to be an effective leader. But all of the things that many of you have put on the board here about listening, communicating, showing empathy, being compassionate, psychological safety, I like that. You've done this before. Really, really good. So, with that in mind, next one, last question, then you can put your phones away. Do you consider yourself to be a manager or a leader? Perhaps neither, perhaps both. In the top right-hand corner, you can see a little counter, which is telling us how many people have completed this. Okay, let's have a look. Oh, fantastic. You have done this before. So we've got 20% of you consider yourself to be a leader, 13% to be a manager. We've got some of you who are neither, and we've got over half of you, just over half of you, are both. And I would imagine that in the audience today, we've got people who run teams of maybe a large team, maybe a small team, and some of you have got teams of, just a few people. But leadership is absolutely really important, whether you're leading a multinational organisation or whether you're running your own sort of local business in the Adur and Worthing district. Leadership and management go hand in hand, and sometimes people say to me, but I'm not a leader. I just run a small company. I don't have a direct impact on dozens of people. Management and leadership causes ripples. You can affect what you can affect. If you are, policing, for example, the chief constable of Sussex Police, she doesn't see her officers that often. She's kind of in an ivory tower. She's not. She's actually quite connectable to her teams, but she doesn't have a daily impact on, a rank and file officer walking the streets of Worthing, for example. That officer's first line supervisor, a sergeant as it would be in the police, has a direct impact on that officer and the people working in their team. And they cause a ripple effect. If you can affect the people working with you and develop perhaps a transformational leadership style, take them on a journey, take them from here to here with the organisational objectives, to do as good as you can do, to be as good as you can be for your company, then that is leadership. So on the right-hand side, inspiration and visionary, emotional intelligence, I'm going to come back to that, doing the right things. It's about inspiring and nurturing, engendering a mindset in your organisation. Management is much more task-focused. Management is getting a job done. How do we do it? How do we do it well? How do we do it to the best of our ability? And that is the management component. The push-pull thing at the bottom is that managers push. Managers push to get things done. So how can I help you to be the best you can be? Let me show you, let me coach you, let me give you the tools to be able to do the job to the best of your ability. I'm managing it. It might be a set task. So coming back to the policing analogy, it could be an investigation. We've got to do the best we can do on this given investigation to satisfy victims of crime, to lock up bad people, to create a community confidence within the local area we live. It's a task. We're managing that task. But overall, management fits into leadership. And the two go hand in hand. So I've just spent 2 or 3 minutes explaining that. You got it already because 51% of you said that you were both managers and leaders. This is something I want to make you aware of. The figures are from Gallup's State of the Global Workplace report. For those of us of a certain age, Gallup used to produce the top 40 on a Sunday. We used to listen to the Gallup chart. But no, they do obviously lots of research. And this is done every year, and these are the latest figures. This is the workforce. So the amount of the workforce that is engaged is only it's less than a quarter, 23% on the last survey. Not engaged, 62%, and actively disengaged, 15%. So this is where your management and leadership qualities come to the fore. So engaged, people who want to be at work, they will come in, they will do the job to the best of their ability, they want to learn, they want to be inspired, they want to take on new tasks, give me a project, help me grow and develop. They might want to be future managers and leaders in your organisation. Not engaged, not necessarily disengaged, but they come in, they'll do a job. Plenty of people have said this to me in the past, look, I just want to come in, want to do my job, want to start at 9 o'clock, want to finish at 5, want to get my paycheck at the end of a week, end of a month, want to pay my mortgage. But, yes, I quite enjoy being here, but I'm not really engaged. If a better job comes in tomorrow, I'm off, I'm going. And then you've got your organisational terrorists here. You're actively disengaged. The people who perhaps talk about you, if you're in the management, behind your back, will say to other people in the team, well, I don't know why you're bothering doing that. It's all a load of old rubbish, isn't it? Or less polite words. And they will conspire perhaps to, you see this a lot, people want to join an organisation, and we saw it in policing. And then after a while, well, I don't know why you're doing that. There's no point. Absolutely actively disengaged, would not conform to organisational objectives, but worse still, try to influence the mindset of other people. So as a leader, obviously, I'm going to come on to managing conflict and difficult conversations, but in terms of engaging, this is how we can try to get these people up to here, because 23% there, that's quite a good figure, because the Gallup poll also said that companies who had the most engaged employees had a turnover which was 23% higher than ones which didn't have engaged employees. So the onus is on us and you as inspirational leaders to get your workforce signed up and fully engaged. So how do we do it? Okay, there's one of the questions I get asked the most is, I don't know what style of leader I should be. People new to management positions will say, I'm suffering from imposter syndrome. I don't know if I belong here. I don't know if I am a leader. I don't know if I can manage people, and I don't know what my style is. And the answer to that is, there are loads of different styles of leadership, all depending on a situation, depending on the team you've got. Are they actively engaged? If I've got an actively engaged team, it might be light touch. It might just be a style. So I'm making you feel sick now with these slides going back and forth. It might just be a little bit of democratic leadership. Let's have a sort of team meeting. Let's go around the room. Let's see what we're doing. How are we doing it? How can we improve? Any learning from what happened yesterday, last week, last month, etc., etc. Or it might be kind of a very transactional style of leadership where I'm saying, we've got this order in, we need to complete it, we need to meet our clients' terms by the end of the day. So we need to be very transactional. I need this table to do this, I need this table to do that, and by the end of the day, we will have achieved our task. And if we do, you're all going to get a bonus. And if we don't, then, I'm really extreme, but there might be some penalty to pay. It might be a stick and a carrot style of leadership. You're going to get signed off. No, you're not. But that's the, there are different styles of leadership according to any given situation. Done that already. So I've got about just over 45 minutes left to talk to you about how we can lead with impact, how you can lead your teams in the most effective way to get the most out of them, lead professional teams. So, lots of different styles of leadership. You may be hearing more and more. So the old style of kind of my way or the highway, the kind of Alan Sugar, you're fired. They still exist. They're up, and in my service as a police officer, I've got a little part-time job working in a management role in the NHS. Based locally, there are still people who are very kind of transactional, authoritarian, and kind of slam the table. It's not very effective. You are probably hearing a lot more these days about human-centered leadership, putting people first. If your team want to work for you, if they enjoy the work, if you have a little bit of a rapport with them, you understand what makes them tick, why they want to be there, if you've got a small team, you know who they are, you know where they live, you know what their family is, what their makeup is. You put them, because they are the thing that will make your organisation grow. We can achieve very little on our own. As a team, as a collective, you can achieve much more. So putting people, and none of this is rocket science. You're kind of thinking, it's going to tell me something groundbreaking in a minute. People say to me, how can I lead? And the answers are in the room. The answers are in yourselves. It's just kind of looking, finding the wood for the trees and seeing the wood for the trees, and doing some simple stuff, putting people first, prioritizing their needs and helping them grow. And somebody, very impressively, it was almost like I planted them and I honestly didn't, somebody create a psychologically safe space for them. And after this session, I'm going to be running some mentoring days in part of a business support program. You can sign up for it, and we will be doing some mentoring days, focusing for much longer on different aspects of management and leadership. And one of the things I will talk about, there's lots of management theory. If you go right back to go back 50, 60 years, you've got Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Who's heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Loads of you, perfect. And the bottom tier of that is a psychological safe space. People want to know that they can operate safely, that they can feel part of a team, and that they can sort of use that as the foundation to grow and flourish. So human-centered leadership, you will hear a lot about putting people first. And then hand in hand with that, but not quite the same, is ethical leadership. How to, so the top bullet point there, respecting, the rights of others, fits very nicely into the human-centered sort of leadership sort of mold, but doing the right thing. So I'm sure most of you will do this in your organisations, in the different aspects of work you do. Try to be fair with your employees. Try to be fair with your customers. Try to be fair with the people you collaborate with to get the job done. Have some sort of social responsibility. Again, it sounds really kind of quite obvious. There's lots of unscrupulous businesses out there. I'm sure you've dealt with them. And, having been in policing, I've seen the consequences of unscrupulous businesses sort of ripping people off. We could digress, and I could tell you lots of stories. But ethical leadership is about making decisions that empower and inspire and protect the rights of your customers, your employees, and the people who have a stake in your organisation. And as it says here, ethical leadership can help organisations build a workplace culture of transparency, collaboration, and inclusion. Bit of a wordy slide, but this is from an American lady, Marissa Afton, who works for a company called the Potential Project. And a bit like the Gallup yearly poll, they do some work with Harvard Business Review. And this is from the latest research and finding that they came up with. Many leaders think they have to make a difficult choice between being a good person or a hard leader, making those decisions. This is what we're going to do, or being a compassionate, approachable, ethical leader. And as she says, it's a false dichotomy. You can do both. You can have business acumen, you can make the hard decisions, you can problem solve, you can decide one thing is better than another, you can make all of those kind of management and leadership decisions, but you can still do it in a compassionate way. And there's some data at the end which says if you are leading a team, because it's stressful, you take on the business requirements, the daily issues that your workforce are facing, lots of kind of additional, dare I say it, kind of personal problems that people come to work with. There's always an issue to be resolved in the workplace. Putting the two together shows that if you can be compassionate and a strong leader making good decisions, then you have, as I say, 66% lower personal stress, 200% lower intention to quit and find yourself another role. I mean, it's pretty impressive. And you're more efficient, 14% more efficient. And one of the things that you hear a lot spoken about is emotional intelligence in leadership. And I have worked with some very, so for 2 years I did a national facing police role in London, and I was working with the Association of Chief Police Officers, and I worked with chief constables from all around the country, and there were some really, really good ones, some people who knew how to work with people in a kind of, in a way to engender a growth mindset and deliver good results. And there were some really, really poor, my way or the highway people who lacked emotional intelligence. So just for a couple of minutes, emotional intelligence, you hear it said a lot. Again, it's not rocket science. It's not something that we can't achieve. And the thing with emotion is it's not something that you can't achieve. And with intelligence, with IQ, most people have a set level. Yes, you can coach yourself and improve and undertake learning and further study to try to improve your levels of intelligence. Emotional intelligence is something that people need to kind of work on throughout their lives. And I've worked with it, I'm not going to say his name, but there was one chief constable who's still a chief constable at the moment who didn't have any of this because he was a really intelligent person, but when he came up with an idea, he didn't run it past, he didn't test it on the workforce, he didn't sit in a room with other people and say, what do you think of my suggestion? He would just implement it. And sometimes it worked well, and sometimes it just didn't land well at all. So, emotional intelligence. There are things that trigger us. So, Jeanette, I'm going to pick on you. Just what triggers, Jeanette? One thing that triggers you.
Staff that are on their phones.
Staff on their phones. And Linda.
Actually, I'd go along with that. Texting.
Okay. So something that triggers the two ladies sitting there. Lots of things trigger us. So that's a really good example. Traffic is something that I'm sure on the way here today, some of you got cut up by somebody. Somebody pulled in, they went down the outside lane and cut in at that junction just as you were waiting there, and you've been waiting there for 10 minutes, and it annoys you. And the response is you could sort of put your hand on the horn and really let them know what you think. And I've done that before. I'm sure lots of us have done that before. The thing is, after you've done that, you sort of think, oh, I've been a bit of a twonk. Everybody else in the queue's looking at me, and why didn't I just bite my sort of tongue, count to 10, because they could be lost, they could be rushing to get to the business support program, and they, trying to find parking, and they've got to hear this kind of a really impassionate, bald-headed speaker who's wobbling on about leadership. I've got to get there. Or coming back to the phone thing, you could say, for goodness sake, will you put your phone down, Jeanette? I'm trying to talk to you about leadership, and all you're doing is texting about what you're going to have for dinner tonight. Show some respect, please. Or I could just maybe, in the coffee break, say, when we're having a coffee, hi, Jeanette, how's it going? Did you enjoy your coffee? Did you enjoy the first? I've noticed you've been on the phone a bit. If you need to take a call, you're welcome to go outside, but when you're in the room, because you're disturbing other people with your click, click, tapping and what have you. There's ways of doing it. Emotional intelligence is about self-awareness. It's about knowing what triggers you and being able to manage your emotions so that you don't have an outburst which could set you back. So if I had an outburst in front of my team in the police because, someone's done something wrong and it's all going to rats, they would look at me and lose respect. So he's not calm, he's not in control of the situation, and he's not speaking to us in a respectful way. So the first part of emotional intelligence is self-awareness. This comes from some work done by Daniel Goleman, who's kind of one of the leading lights on emotional intelligence based in America. To be fair, he wrote this book, What Makes a Leader, in 1998. Emotional intelligence has been around for sort of centuries. It's not new. But so, self-awareness, knowing how to control yourself, how to manage yourself, how to count to 10, how to just do some breathing exercises, how to turn the other cheek, how to think, I will deal with that later, but we've got bigger issues to deal with right here and now. And that's me, okay? So when I'm doing something and something really annoys me, I'm just going to show a bit of emotional self-control and kind of keep myself in check. But if that's me, then that's also the people working with me, because we all get triggered by stuff. We all lose our temper, and we all sometimes are in danger of losing emotional self-control. And if you do, sometimes things go said which then can't be unsaid. Dan, for goodness sake, will you just stop sitting there, folding your arms and, show me a bit more respect? Well, Dan now thinks I'm a complete and utter twonk. And, when I try and speak to him at lunchtime and say, I'm really sorry I embarrassed you in front of everybody, mate, talk to the hand, it's too late, you're dead to me. And I've lost that opportunity to build a relationship. So emotional self-awareness, okay, if it happens to me, it happens to you too. So when you are leading your teams and you've got to say, we've just got this order in, something's gone wrong, it's got to be completed by the end of the day, we've got to investigate this new crime that's come in, somebody's been GBH'd and unfortunately you're not getting off duty at the time you thought you were, so you thought you were going to go home and you had a private engagement tonight. You're not going to, we're going to stay on until we get this sorted. I could be triggering people. Now, I could just say, suck it up and get on with it, or I could recognise that I need to manage the relationships. And it's coming back to that human-centred leadership, how I speak to them. So, do you know what? This has just happened. I know you had to get off today, but somebody's just been bottled in a pub, and I'm afraid that's not possible. I will try to get you off as soon as possible, but in return, before that, can you do this, this and this? At least start me off on my investigation, do these initial tasks, and then we'll review it and see if we can get you off on a good time still. That's effectively, I'll go into it in much more detail on the mentoring sort of sessions, but emotional intelligence, knowing what triggers you, knowing that you can get uptight, and then recognising, well, if I can get uptight, so can you, and trying to develop that smooth relationship, that consistent, even-tempered relationship within your teams. Right, let's talk about delegating. This is a bit of a whistle-stop tour. Say we've got an hour, and I'm going through some key things. People say to me, I don't know how to talk to people without losing my temper. I don't know how to delegate effectively. So I've kind of picked off some of the things that I thought you might want to hear. Delegating. Who has to delegate sort of tasks to your teams? So about a third of you. Delegate, so being able to delegate effectively is key, is one of the key things in management, in good leadership, being able to recognise when you can pass on work to somebody else and allow them to do it effectively and with a degree of autonomy, that you're not going to then micromanage them. So there's a couple of things which at the end of the day, we will share with you. I'll share my effective delegation triangle with you and a four-step plan for managing difficult conversations. So basically, to be able to delegate effectively, one, you need to establish what it is that I want you to do and how do I want you to do it. What is the end result? What does it look like? So if I'm asking you to do this, what do I want you to achieve? How are we going to be able to check that you've done it? What is the way that we are going to assess if it's been done effectively? When do we want it done? And is there any kind of level of authority required to do it? Or can I just sort of, explain to you that I'd like you to take on this task and off you go, or do you need to involve other parties? So we'll share this with you. Absolutely, with delegating work, make sure you give it to the right person. So you have, or some of you have teams of different sizes. Come back to that actively engaged employee. Well, they would probably be the best person, somebody who's up for a little bit of project work, who's really motivated, enjoys being part of a company. But if you come down to your middle level, that kind of 67%, I think it was, of people who aren't actively engaged, but yeah, they're okay, my job's all right, but I could find another one tomorrow which pays more and I'd be happy to do it. If you give somebody a bit more responsibility, empower them, then you might be helping them get from that kind of middle ground up to that actively engaged. Do you know what? I went to work today and my boss showed some faith in me, showed some trust, gave me something which was quite important and said, here you go, I want you to do this. They gave me some guidance and then they left me alone and they didn't bother me and they didn't micromanage me. it can help people go from that kind of middle tier of, well, I don't mind my job, to, do you know what, I really enjoy it. I've been given some responsibility. So find the right person, the person who's best to, and I do appreciate some of you thinking, I've only got one person to give it to, or I've only got a couple of people, so I've got less choice. And we'll come on, it comes down to kind of emotional intelligence and how to inspire people. Consult with them, are you able to take this on? Because the last thing I need for somebody to say is, I've got a personal crisis going on at the moment, and I might need to leave work in the next hour because something is happening at home. Well, that's not going to be conducive to either of us. So are you able to take on this piece of work? Thinking ahead, a lot of work is cyclical. It goes round and round and round, and you get the same issues arising. If you can think, next time this happens, I'm going to delegate this. I haven't got time to do it myself, and I'm going to pass it on to whoever it might be in the team, who I think is best equipped to take it on. So think ahead. Look at the bigger picture in the team and think, next time I'm going to have a different plan for this. And then delegate the whole job. Don't micromanage. So being a manager who empowers people, here's a task, this is what I want you to do, this is how perhaps you might want to do it, but consider your own ways yourself. And let's meet again at the end of the day or tomorrow and see how you're getting on, but I'm going to leave you to do it. Is a much more, people are much more receptive to that than if you just give them a little bit of a task or keep micromanaging and say, okay, you've done that, let's see what the next thing to do on the bigger sort of piece of a project is. People feel empowered if you give them a whole task. And then support them, sort of check on how they're doing, but support them and encourage them. Specify the outcomes, covered that already. What are we expecting from this particular task? And make sure that you delegate good stuff. Don't just delegate the crud, the stuff that people don't want to do. If I want to get people to that kind of actively engaged level in my organisation, if I keep giving out the dull jobs to people, they're not going to be actively engaged. They're going to be looking for something different to do because, do you know what? My manager just keeps on giving me the same old boring tasks and I've got no job satisfaction. Give them the good stuff, give them something which is customer focused, customer facing, something where they can use their kind of, the skills they have and enjoy it. Taking your time. You know the capabilities of your teams and your employees. So sometimes you might identify somebody who's particularly good and adept at doing something and pair them up with somebody else who's new to the team or hasn't done that task before, and allow them to kind of have a mentoring role and both learn from that task. So take your time, explain what you want, have a meaningful conversation, setting a person up to deliver the best possible results. And then trust people. The last thing here, it's not rocket science. Trust them. Don't keep nitpicking. I've asked you to do it, and as a result, crack on, have a go at it. If it goes wrong, remember emotional intelligence. I could oh my God, it's all gone wrong. Or I could think, if I'm giving somebody a job to do, there's a chance that they will do it really, really well. There's also a chance that it may go less well than I had initially hoped. Well, I could have my emotionally unintelligent outburst and they never want to be given anything again and I've just lost that relationship. Or we say, okay, well, let's reflect and review and see how we got on with this. What can we do better next time? And then next time I delegate it, we get a slightly different result. So first time we get 65% efficiency. Next time we get 75 and up and up and up. So it's about trusting people and kind of nurturing them through kind of the work we're asking them to do. And that is what, let's have a quick sip of water. That is what, so I'm not going to whiz back through, but we looked at the different styles of leadership, and one of them was transformational leadership. You hear it, it's one of the styles I think is personally, I like it. I've worked with some transformational leaders. It's about taking people on a journey. So this is where we currently are. my business has just started, and at the moment we're here, but in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, we want to be up here. How are we going to get there? Well, I need to take you on a journey so that together, as a collective workforce, we deliver the best possible outcomes for our organisation. So it's about tapping into that kind of positive mindset, motivating and encouraging people to deliver the best possible performance they can do. Has anyone got an example of a transformational leader? So think of kind of the world of leadership and give me a shout of who fits that sort of that vision, and this is where we're going sort of type of leadership. Nelson Mandela, yeah, to be fair, Nelson Mandela, if I'd said, who do you think is the best leader in the public eye, he normally comes up here because he's compassionate, he's empathetic, he is a good communicator, he's transformational. Absolutely, really good. Steve Jobs from Apple, passed away a long time ago now, but people say he was a hard taskmaster, but he was transformational. He had a vision to turn Apple into a multinational sort of communications sort of giant, and did. Richard Branson started out in selling music from a telephone box, I think, didn't he? And grew that brand, that Virgin brand, into a multinational sort of company. So absolutely. And I've worked with a few people who have previously worked with Richard Branson, and they say what you see is what you get. Those kind of stunts he used to do in larger than life and really gregarious. That is Richard Branson, and apparently he had very good parties. People who, Richard Branson drunk in the hotel corridor. I've heard those stories, but he was very transformational in terms of trying to take his workforce with him on a journey. Let's have a go. So yeah, you're inspiring your workers, you're challenging them to take ownership for their work, understanding what their strengths and weaknesses are, and trying to use those strengths and weaknesses to deliver the best for the organisation. It can be very tiring. If you work with someone who is kind of Tigger on heat and come on, we're going to do the best we can every day, it can, remember you've got people who come in and just want to do their job, just want to get paid. I know that I want to get off on time. I want to do the job as best I can, but that's what I'm here for. There are some people who don't want to be transformed. Just tell me what I've got to do, how you want me to do it, and when I've got to do it by. That is fine. And you do need to be mindful that not everybody will buy into this transformational vision. But it's a good, for those of you who want to grow your businesses, to develop and be the best they can be, transforming your workforce it is certainly something you need to consider. And with that in mind, developing your workforce, so finding the right people for the job, finding the right people for any given task, whether it's delegating or whether it is finding people as a fit for the whole job itself of the organisation, is really key. Yes, it's partly an HR function in the kind of a recruiting phase, but it's also a nurturing function for managers, supervisors, and leaders. And as I said, managers and supervisors are leaders. They have that ripple effect. So when you want to grow your workforce, and these aren't the only sort of solutions, but this is what I would suggest you're looking for in order to find the best people. So who is a cultural fit for your organisation? So who aligns with your company's values and your ethics? So we come back to kind of ethical leadership, the values of the organisation, treating people fairly, treating customers fairly, working collaboratively with partners. Who fits into that? Are these people engaged, and are they a good fit? And do they have a growth mindset? Are they people who, do you know what? I'm happy to take on a bit more work, Richard, or I'm happy to help you with this, or do you mind if I just suggest a different way of doing something? Because we don't have all the answers ourselves, our workforce have them. And are you receptive to someone coming in and saying, we've been doing this for the last month in this certain way, and I reckon if we do it this way, in a different sort of way, it might be different. We might get better results. We might save some time. We might save some money. We might get a better response from our customers. So a growth mindset, those who are constantly looking to improve and are open to feedback and are happy to give feedback. And ergo, once you get to that stage, you're probably identifying people who are suitable to be a leader within your organisation, to sort of join you on that journey of kind of improvement and inspirational progress. So identifying people with leadership potential and the ability to solve problems, overcome obstacles, not kind of crumble when they arise. Couple more here then. Diverse skills, of course, there are people who are very good at certain tasks, people who, as I said, people who are very task focused, and they might be a really strong component for a key part of your work. Identify them and make sure you've got a mix. You've got people who can talk to, so if it's launching a new product, for example, you need people who can find the potential customers out there who are going to buy that product. You need the people who can then sell it to them, the people who are perhaps good communicators, quite gregarious. You need the people who be able to work on the project and develop it and problem solve it and troubleshoot it so it works fine. And then you've got the kind of the after sales kind of part of the team who will follow up and deal with issues as they arise. So teams need diversity in terms of different skills all fitting together to align to a task. That's what that is. And then resilience and agility, flexibility, who aren't going to show that lack of emotional intelligence when things go wrong. When we suddenly say, do you know what, something has just arisen, we're going to have to put the rest of today's work on hold and just focus on this key client, this order that needs to be completed, this criminal investigation that needs to be undertaken. You need people who are resilient and agile and can adapt to that. And that's kind of what we're looking for. Right, let's spend a bit of time on difficult conversations. Does anyone want to suggest where? Where's the quote from? Who's that quote from? Courage is what it takes to stand up and speak. Courage is also what it takes to sit down and listen. Oh, I think I heard it. Winston Churchill. Did somebody say that? Congratulations. You get the gold star. You can be first in the queue for coffee. Okay, what's your name? Sue. So when we break in 14 minutes for coffee, can we let Sue get to the front of the coffee queue? There we go. It's Winston Churchill. And just a tip. It really is good because those of you in your team meetings, practice speaking last. Just to, this is Nelson Mandela did this, and if you go into a team meeting as the owner of the company, as the leader, and say, right, this is what I think we should do in relation to this particular problem. What do you think? Well, the manager's already said what he or she wants to do, so people are going to go, yeah, it's not a bad idea. I agree. You might get groupthink going on in the room. If you go around the table and say, right, this is the issue. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Then you as the manager, as the leader, at the end can say, well, I've heard what you've all said. And we're going to take a little bit of that and a little bit of this. And somebody might have come from left field and say, thank you for your contribution, but on this occasion, it's not relevant. And this is what we're going to do. It's really worth practicing because you will get more out of your teams. Anyway. Difficult conversations. Who has had a difficult conversation in the last month at work? Oh, do you know, it's all working perfectly. Good. Not as many as I anticipated. So if you need to have a conversation which might involve a little bit of kind of conflict, might be testing your emotional intelligence. This is just, in policing, we loved a mnemonic. If they could think of a way to, this is how you're going to remember something, they would come up with a mnemonic. So, I wanted to do something with Scrabble tiles. So, but Brave is pretty good for this, okay? So when you need to say win an argument, not necessarily win an argument, when you need to win hearts and minds or explain something in a way that resolves an issue, you need to be kind of quite confident in your approach. You need to take a bold approach, but you need to have a clear rationale for what you're asking people to do or the actions you're asking them to take. And to explain this, those of you in the room who are parents, when you've done that, and I've done it, lack of emotional intelligence, when you've said to your kids, I want you to do this. You go, oh, why? Don't ask me why, just do it. I'm telling you to do it. You lose the room. Oh, Dad's just having another one of his moments. And it doesn't work. Yes, they might do it, but they won't do it willingly. It'll be, oh, yeah. Sorry, I sound like Kevin and Perry now, don't I? Hello, Mrs. Patterson. So have a clear rationale. So this is what I will need to talk to you about. This is why. We've got an issue with a client who constantly says that the orders are late, and as a result, it's costing them money at their end. So we need to resolve this. So this is what I want us to do, and this is why I want us to do it. Assertion to stress your point. So, and as a result, this is what we're going to do. And use your tone of voice, stress the key parts of that conversation. Then this is what we've decided. So thanks for coming to see me today. I'm pleased that we've been able to resolve the issue of you have been late for work 5 times in the last month, and it's been noticed by your colleagues. It's caused a little bit of a disconnect in the team. We've sorted it out, so we've now verified that the issues which have been causing your lateness, and as a result of that, whether it's putting somebody on a performance plan or whether it's just resolving an issue amicably with some decisions, this is what we've agreed to take this forward, and these are the next steps. So moving forward, this is what we're going to do. Let's put it into context. I'm just very quickly going to mention this. I'm doing all right for time. Has anyone read Radical Candor? How did you find it at the back?
It told me what I already knew, but in a way that I could then process.
Yeah, but to be fair, when you say it's already what you knew, have I said anything in the last 50 minutes that you didn't already know? Honestly. No, because leadership, people say to me, I don't know how to be a leader. Of course you do. None of this is like rocket science. And when I first started on my journey, I kind of thought, leadership development, I'm going to be talking up here. A lot of people say, I don't know how to talk to my teams. I don't know how to get the best out of them. It's not rocket science. It's all about common sense. Kim Scott is a Silicon Valley chief exec. She worked for Google, she worked for Apple, and I haven't got time to explain this in detail, but I will do it on the mentoring sessions. Basically, she said she's got 2 axes there. She's got the care and the challenge. And radical candor is when you get to the stage where you care about people and you're empathetic and compassionate, but you also challenge them. So she gives an example of an employee that she headhunted to Google, and he joined the organization, and for 2 years she had this kind of ruinous empathy. She liked him, she cared about him, but she didn't challenge him. So when his work wasn't up to scratch, and other members of the team thought, he's not really pulling his weight, I don't know why she recruited him, he's not that great. She didn't tell him, and it got to about 2 years down the line, and she called him in and she said, look, I need to have a chat with you because this is the situation, your work isn't effective, we need you to work in different ways to be more effective and to be an important component of the organisation. He resigned. He said, if you had told me this a week after I joined, even a month after I joined, and I realised I'm new to the organisation, there's things I need to do differently to be more effective. I would have lived with that. He said, 2 years. He said, you've done my legs. You know, how can I face my colleagues knowing that for the last 2 years they've been thinking I've been ineffective? And he resigned. So radical candor is about sometimes passing difficult messages, but in a compassionate, empathetic way. So, the 4-step plan. Does anyone want to role play with me? We've got a couple of minutes. Has anyone got a fairly simple sort of issue with obviously anonymised, with an employee or a colleague that they might have to have a difficult conversation about? It doesn't matter. I'm putting you on the spot. So let's suppose then that. So I did this with I did some work with a different district council recently, and one of them, it was fairly simple actually. It was a member of a team who administered the databases, and whenever a problem came in that the council had to deal with, they created a ticket and put it on the system. This is the issue, and this member of staff wasn't putting enough information on the explaining what the situation was, so that the team couldn't actively deal with it. Well, what exactly do we need to do? What is the problem? And so the conversation was along the lines of. So here we're kind of clarifying the object of the conversation, and then we're setting some goals. So, Dan, I'm going to pick on you again. So Dan, thanks for coming to see me today. And I might do some niceties, emotional intelligence and making you feel part of it. So, how are things going with you, etc., etc. And then we're getting for the reason I've come to see, the reason I've asked you to sort of sit down and chat with me today is we just need to talk about the data entries you're putting on the database, about the problems coming into the organisation, because some of the team have indicated there's a lack of information about that, and we need to try to improve the knowledge of the issue so that we can resolve it. So what I would like to do today is to try and work out how we can perhaps improve the amount of the information flow coming into the organisation, coming into the data, something like that. So you clarify what you want to talk about, and then you set some goals. This is what I want to achieve today. I want a better flow of information. I want people to understand what they need to do in their job, whatever it might be. And then, most of this is about number 3. So then, and what can you do to help me achieve that? What can you suggest to make, to give us a better result? What can you suggest to resolve this problem? And then you stop talking, because silence is awkward, isn't it? You think, oh, has he forgotten what he's going to say? Silence is awkward. People feel it. So if you've clarified your objectives, you've set some goals, this is what I want to achieve today, and then you let somebody else fill them. Yes, you can ask some is there anything I can do to help you be more effective? Anything I can do to resolve some blockages that you may have, but the onus is here on the other person or persons you're having that difficult conversation with. It might be a team meeting. We all need to resolve this issue because there's a blockage. What can I do to help you do your job better? But what can you suggest? Let them fill the silence. And then at the end, it's a bit like on that previous one about, what are the next steps? State your outcomes. It's really important when you've had that difficult conversation, you've gone through that kind of I've really got to speak to that employee and I've been dreading doing it for the last couple of weeks. You've used up all that kind of emotional energy in doing it. Make sure you state the outcomes of a meeting, because the last thing you want to do is not have it documented, not have it kind of clarified, so that you go back to square one next week or next month, and you have to do it again. You only want to have these conversations once. And difficult conversations are part of being a leader, part of managing. And they don't have to be that kind of, I'm telling you to do it. They can be kind of compassionate and respectful, come back to the Kim Scott. They can be passing important information in a respectful way. Right, we are nearly there. And absolutely, if you are asking your team, if you're prepared to have difficult conversations with your team, be prepared to be challenged. Come back to that kind of growth mindset of individuals who perhaps have got leadership potential and can be leaders in your organisation of a future. Let them give you feedback. You know, is it a 6? Is it a 9? You know, sometimes you need to reflect and review on your own performance. And just to wrap up, performance. Lorraine, are you here? Yeah, hello. After coffee, Lorraine's going to talk about a little bit more about this. So I'm just going to focus on this. But you know, it's the middle of October. It'll soon be Halloween, and then we'll be letting fireworks off, and then I'm sure some of you started your Christmas shopping already. I won't start mine until the 24th of December. But hey. Start setting some goals for you, some strategic goals. And very, very quickly, and on the mentoring days, I will talk about how to set some SMART goals, which are kind of specific to achieving certain aims. Focus on you. So think about, how can I be better in 2025? How can I be better going forward from tomorrow? I can set myself some achievable goals. I'm going to try and work on my emotional intelligence. I'm going to count to 10. I'm going to do some breathing. I'm going to think, how would I feel if someone was speaking to me in a way that I'm speaking to my employees? I'm going to try to be more emotionally intelligent about it. This is really important, and we'll talk about this on a mentor day. How do you develop yourself? How do you look after your own resilience and well-being? Because a lot of you, you know, the buck stops with you. You're in positions of responsibility, and you've got to take care of yourself. Delegate, we've spoken about that, and I'll share the slide with you. Delegate effectively. Set people up so that they can take on tasks for you. Don't set them up to fail, and give them and empower them, give them tasks. But last point is push yourself. So some of you can transform your organizations from here, you're doing well, but you want to do even better. So yes, I'm going to say set some SMART goals, but don't be afraid to push yourself. Don't be afraid to think big. So my company has got a turnover of this at the minute. I want to triple it by next year. And if we always have smart, small goals, we don't sometimes, exceed our boundaries. Set yourself, big goals as well, and challenge yourself. Because, to finish with, as a leader, you are the cog to join all of this. So your clients, your management team, your workforce, your employees, and to be effective in the organisation. As a leader, you can control the destiny of all of this. So it's exciting. There's a challenge there. But if you're enthusiastic and motivational, a lot of what we've gone through in this whistle stop tour is achievable. So that's a whistle stop, just an hour. We can do it in greater detail on the mentoring days and go into some of these issues in more depth and explore them. But as I said, ask questions as we went through. Is there anything, and I'm going to come and have a coffee. If you want to grab me throughout the day, I'm here all day, and ask me something specifically, please do. But has anyone got a burning question they want before we let Sue get in the queue for the coffee? Good. Well, look, thank you very much. I hope that was useful. I'm here all day, and I'm happy to speak later. Thank you.